think there are 2 shows ahead of SmackDown or something now, according to the TV guide listings. But I wonder too, is this too soon for CM Punk and Triple H? Is this too soon for, SmackDown to be moving to Tuesday night? A lot of stuff, doesn't make sense to me right now. But you can let us know on Twitter and Facebook what you think of it all. I thought it was great. I thought the Raw Super Show was great. I thought the SmackDown Super Show was great too. The SmackDown Super Show was better than the Raw one. But the matches were longer. That's something that I took out of the Super Shows. The matches were longer, and there were less matches on the show. And the reason for there being less matches was the fact that the matches were ultimately longer. When you're used to seeing shorter matches, which is something that you need to take into consideration too. If the shows and the rosters are coming together, the fact that the matches were longer, is something that needs to be taken into consideration. The matches were good, but they were just too long, and that took away from there being more matches on the show. Usually we'd get anywhere from probably 6 to 7 matches on the show, and it was cut down to at least 4 matches. I think there were more matches on the SmackDown show than there were on the Raw show. It benefited us because we got good matches, but it didn't benefit us in the fact that we didn't get as many matches as we would have got on just a Raw featured show or a SmackDown featured show. So that's something I took into consideration too. The fans in the audience seem to be more into it. It allows you to have more interaction through Twitter and Facebook too on live shows. Now you can have more interaction through the internet, but the fact that we're not getting as many matches as we would on just a Raw or a SmackDown, just featuring the Raw roster or the SmackDown roster or something too. Is this too soon for SmackDown to be making the move from Friday to Tuesday night, which is a rumor going around on the internet right now? Is this too soon for CM Punk and Triple H to be happening? So a lot of questions can be thrown at our audience in a radio form or on our YouTube channel, wherever you may be hearing the show, either on our YouTube channel at youtube.com JonathanClarke22, where this show will be available in video format, taking a look at the Raw and SmackDown Super Shows. I think it's a bit too soon for CM Punk and Triple H, definitely. I don't know whether or not SmackDown is ready to move to Tuesday nights on a permanent basis. If SmackDown is moving to Tuesday nights on a permanent basis, you're going to need some Raw superstars to be coming in weekly. Not the entire roster like Triple H is kind of hinting that's going to happen. But that kills the point of them making a Raw versus SmackDown video game every year. WWE 12, the up-and-coming video game, which WWE Magazine just recently took a look at, is the first WWE video game not having a Raw versus SmackDown feel to it, so that kind of eliminates the point of having a yearly Raw versus SmackDown video game released. The idea of these super shows is to promote the fact that there's no more draft, but I think it's a bit too soon, definitely, for SmackDown to be moving from Friday to Tuesday nights. And ultimately, the reason why they're doing that is the fact that SmackDown has had so much success on Sci-Fi, being Sci-Fi's #1 show, and with the promotion of Ghost Hunters on SmackDown last week. Obviously, SmackDown is the #1 show, yes, and Ghost Hunters has to be the #2 show. And it makes complete sense to me why SmackDown is the #1 show, given the fact that Sci-Fi generally just has, sci-fi programming on it, like Ghost Hunters and Star Trek. So that gives SmackDown good reason to be the #1 show, and probably is the reason why SmackDown is the #1 show on the network right now. But ever since its move from, I believe, CW to My Network Television, and then from My Network Television to Sci-Fi, ever since its move from those networks to Sci-Fi, SmackDown has been the #1 show, and that's probably the reason why they're making a decision to move SmackDown to Tuesday nights. So then you're having a block of television thrown at you of 4 hours. You have to take in so much WWE live television in 2 days, which is great too. But there's a disadvantage of that too because it kind of wears you out. You have Raw and SmackDown back to back, and then you have NXT on Wednesday nights, and then you have Superstars on Thursday nights. So the probability of having 8 hours of television one after another is kind of boom, 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 thrown at you so quickly when you're used to seeing Raw on Mondays, NXT, on Tuesdays. You don't have any WWE programming on Wednesdays. And then you have Superstars on Thursdays and Impact on Thursdays, TNA Impact. So the probability of having 8 hours of television thrown at you one after another is kind of up in the air right now, and kind of odd after you becoming so used to seeing Raw, NXT, having nothing on Wednesdays, and then having Superstars and Impact on the same night. It's a bit much. I will say that. It's kind of a bit much to have happen and thrown at you. But it could happen, which is something that is going to kind of ultimately wear you out. There's a lot of energy at these super shows, yes. But it's a bit much. It's a bit much WWE television when we're so used to seeing Raw on Mondays, NXT the following night on Tuesdays, with it moving to Wednesdays possibly because of the super shows being back to back and the probability of SmackDown moving from Friday to Tuesdays. I remember when SmackDown used to be on a network where there'd be a lot of baseball, and I believe that network was CW, and they were thinking about moving SmackDown from Thursdays, I think it was, to Fridays because of the fact that there was so much baseball, which they went through with on the network. But I think that the fact that they're going to be having so much WWE television one after another is kind of weird, and it's something that shouldn't be taking place. But let us know what you think at Facebook and Twitter, and definitely let us know, because your opinion is definitely appreciated. I think it's a bit much to be having Raw on Mondays, which was ultimately your flagship show, and then having SmackDown the following nights. Now, it's not something that I think is necessary. It's not something that I think you should have happen. It's not something that's going to affect the rosters because they're used to having Raw on Mondays and then taping SmackDown and NXT and Superstars all on Tuesdays and then going on tour the entire week. So it's not something that's going to affect your roster. It's just going to affect your fans who are not used to seeing Raw and SmackDown back to back. It's going to be enjoyable for fans that have watched Raw and SmackDown all your life. And WWE, the WWE product all your life. It's going to be something that you're going to enjoy, but it's not something that is necessary, I think. But with the rumor of SmackDown moving from Friday to Tuesdays, obviously this is a promotional deal that WWE are throwing at us. You're going to have a lot of videos coming at you on our Twitter account over the next little while, taking a look back at the super shows. I enjoyed the involvement of the Divas. I enjoyed the contract signing, which was one of the highlights of my experience of watching these inaugural super shows, which are going to become a weekly thing according to COO Triple H, which is something Vince McMahon didn't give us enough of when he was chairman. So obviously this all coincides with Triple H taking over as the owner, which is kind of great, and this is one of Triple H's inaugural decisions. Is it happening too soon? I think that I can come to the conclusion that the CM Punk Triple H match is happening a bit too soon, and probably happening a bit too soon for other people who are listening to this, either on our YouTube channel at Jonathan Clarke 22 or on our Twitter account, which some of our videos are available on, or on our official website where inaugurally this show started airing. On our Twitter account, which is featured weekly on our official website called In This Corner with Jonathan Clarke, I'll be throwing up a link to a weekly column that talked in depth about the super shows from Raw and SmackDown this week, which emphasize on a lot of crucial points, pros and cons, about these super shows that Raw and SmackDown had earlier this week, how I felt that a lot of people weren't going to be having pushes and have a lot of pushes killed and a lot of stuff. I'll be looking for your comments on our Facebook or our Twitter account, facebook.com Jonathan Clarke, youtube.com Jonathan Clarke 22, and twitter.com HW Entertainment Jonathan Clarke 1, about the weekly column In This Corner with Jonathan Clarke. It's archived on our website already. How I felt about the super shows and how they fared, emphasizing a lot of pros and a lot of cons. In This Corner with Jonathan Clarke is a weekly column which gets a lot of views, especially ever since last summer, and I think that In This Corner with Jonathan Clarke will emphasize a lot of crucial issues, a lot of pros and a lot of cons about the pushes and how people are going to be having their pushes killed. A lot of people who had the responsibility of carrying the shows, like Triple H returning to the limelight. In This Corner with Jonathan Clarke will definitely emphasize on that for you. So definitely check that out when you have the time. It's already archived on our website in our columns form, which you can access by clicking on the columns tab at the top of the website. You can also find our Twitter account by clicking on social networks at the top of the website, clicking on the Twitter link, and following us at HW Entertainment Jonathan Clarke 1. But I think that a lot of stuff is happening too soon. Obviously, the CM Punk Triple H thing is something that's happening a bit too soon. The Sin Cara heel turn is happening a bit too soon, being only about 4 months removed out of WrestleMania. A lot of stuff. And the potential move of SmackDown from Fridays to Tuesdays could be happening a bit too soon. And the draft coming to an end is something that is a bit refreshing to a lot of people, but it is something that could be happening a bit too soon. Something else that I think is going to be a con, or which is something that is definitely associated with a lot of pros, is the fact that the people who are getting the pushes may not be getting the pushes anymore, and a lot of people are going to have to sit on the bench and become jobbers and people who are going to be put over people, which is something that doesn't need to be happening. And it is definitely a con. The fact that you had so many people who were getting pushed